After 7 years, it's that time of the decade for the release of totally new console generations from both Sony and Microsoft. And since I got my hands on the Xbox Series X for a few days now, I'm ready to give you the full review. What's up everyone and welcome to a new video. My name is Omar with Real Gamer Review, and today I'll be reviewing the all-new Xbox Series X. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and liking the video and turn on the bell icon to see more videos like this one. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Like every major hardware launch, demand already is through the roof. And as we all have seen, both Xbox Series X and PS5 pre-orders were already sold out almost instantly. The pandemic for sure also had its effect on the already complicated logistical challenge of shipping millions of gaming consoles around the world. Some people were affected as per the news, and their new console deliveries were delayed. So I'm wishing all the people out there that didn't receive their consoles yet luck, and hopefully they get their hands on them soon. So, since I unboxed that beast of a console a few days ago, I've tested it to the maximum with the optimized series games, Xbox One games, and even Xbox 360 games. Of course, last two were with the great backward compatibility features that the Xbox Series has. You can even go back all the way to the original Xbox games, but unfortunately I didn't have time to try any of those yet. By the way, if you haven't seen my unboxing video for the console yet, make sure to check it out. It should show now on the top of the screen, and I will link it as well in the description below. The design of the Xbox Series X is a major change from its predecessors. The upright tower design is more reminiscent of a desktop gaming PC. Although you can position the console horizontally as well, but I think it looks way better vertically, as horizontally it just looks a bit weird to me. Weighing at almost 4.5 kilograms, 9.8 pounds, the tower box shaped console is matte black all over, being the only color variant till the release of this video at least. The console is all black except for the green hue inside the cooling vents on the top, a clever optical illusion which improves the console's design. The front of the console is pretty straightforward, with the signature Xbox power button on the top left, a disk drive, and an eject button at the bottom left, also including a pairing button and a USB 3.2 port at the bottom right. The back of the console has a small cooling vent as well as an HDMI 2.1 output port, two USB 3.2 ports, one Ethernet port, a storage expansion slot for the new Seagate expansion SSDs, and of course a power input port. An interesting accessibility feature on the back of the console is that all the ports have tactile indicators, basically little raised dots, which help easily identify the different ports. This aims to aid reach-around cabling instead of flipping the console around every time. The sides of the console are basically blank except for an Xbox logo on one of the sides, and the four rubber legs on the other side for placing the console horizontally. And on the bottom side you have a circular stand and intake vent for the cold air intake. A lot of people were skeptical about the design when it was first revealed, and it was compared a lot to a fridge, which was pointed out by Microsoft themselves actually in a very interesting way. For me personally, I really like the design, and I think it would easily fit in almost all kinds of setups. I would like to hear from you guys what your thoughts on the design are in the comments. As for the controller, it didn't see big changes, as Microsoft kept the overall design of the last gen with slight tweaks that surprisingly made a big difference. The design itself was slightly enhanced as they added some texturing to the back of the controller, which actually gave a better grip and was generally better in long gaming sessions. Also, the buttons on the top were changed to a rubbery, more rigid material, which feels better during the gameplay, and it gives a more premium look and feel to the controller compared to the last gen one with the plasticky loud clicking buttons, which felt a bit cheap in my opinion. Also, a new addition is the share button, which basically lets you share cool screenshots and limited gameplay clips of your gaming sessions with friends. The D-pad got a slight design upgrade as well, and now the controller itself has a Type-C port, which is faster in charging, giving you by the Play and Charge kit of course. But other than that, the rest of the design seems similar. Coming to the point that slightly disappointed me, the UI and the dashboard are the exact same as the previous generation of Xbox, which is not bad, don't get me wrong, but for me personally, after 7 whole years when you unbox your new console, I would certainly be happier if I got a new UI design. For sure, it will give a fresh feel to the experience, but Microsoft probably went with the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Not only with the UI, but the controller design as well, as we mentioned before. The new additions to the UI are mainly focused on the customization. In addition of being able to move around your pinned games and apps, Microsoft this time is also letting players express themselves a bit more with the inclusion of new profile themes that act as a background for your profile page. You can also use dynamic backgrounds, which offers a more personalized home screen option, definitely better than the Xbox One's static background. Another thing worth mentioning is that the whole UI is faster and snappier than before. So on paper, the Xbox Series X is considered to be the most powerful console currently and probably for at least a couple of years. As from the history of both Microsoft and Sony, they might release an enhanced version of their consoles later on, like in the case of the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. Both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X have very similar specs except for the GPU, where the Series X puts out 12 teraflops of processing power versus the PS5 outputting at 10.3 teraflops only. Although we have to mention as well that the PS5 has a faster custom SSD which manages transfer rates of 5.5 gigabytes per second, which is almost double the Series X's 2.4 gigabyte per second, but it also comes with a price. On PS5 you have only 667 gigs of usable space on that SSD versus 802 gigabytes on the Series X. More on that later, as I'll be making a full comparison between both consoles in more detail, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. So back to the Series X gameplay, the very first thing you will instantly notice is the faster system boot up and the much faster loading times for games compared to last gen. There is still loading times, not as some people were saying no load times at all, but for sure it is a way better and faster experience. The Series X's RDNA 2 GPU allows the console to target 4K at 60 frames per second with a lot of games. And it even can go up to 120 frames per second with certain titles if connected to a TV that supports this feature. I've tried a few games that have been enhanced and now run at 4K 60 frames per second, and I can tell you right now it is an amazing experience. Especially if you still have your last gen console and compare them both. Basically, it will be very hard to go play the old version of the game after experiencing the enhanced one. I've tried Gears 5, Forza Horizon 4, and they look spectacular. Both of those games also got some graphics and visuals enhancements, so not only the frame rate. Gears 5 runs also on 120 frames per second in the multiplayer mode. How cool is that? Other games also got slightly more enhanced with the revolutionary feature that Microsoft introduced with this console, which is Auto HDR. Some older games that I've tested look much better now with the Auto HDR, and they have a much steadier frame rate as well, and no dips or lags in any parts of the game. Coming to the newly released games, which got the new gen enhancement looking spectacular as well, especially that some of them now support the ray tracing feature. For example, Watch Dogs Legion compared to the Xbox One, which lacks the ray tracing feature, you can clearly see graphical enhancement between both versions. This feature of having the same game on both consoles, Microsoft calls it Smart Delivery, which basically gives you the best version of the game depending on which console you are playing the game on at no extra cost. Also, we have the newly released Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which has breathtaking visuals running at 4K 60 frames per second as well, which is by the way a very good game, so you might wanna hit that subscribe button to be the first to know once I post my full review. Another very big feature that this console has is the quick resume feature, which basically lets you jump very quickly between games in a very short time, continuing exactly where you left off the last time, with no startup screens or loading times and all of that hassle. And I've tried it myself and it works like a charm. At the beginning I didn't think I would like it or even need it, but it's kind of growing on me and I've been using it quite often. since yes, I'm that type of gamer that switches in between multiple games quite often in one gaming session. A quick disclaimer for this part: for this test I'm lacking the professional tools for it, so I basically used my hands and ears for the test, and here are the results. For the fan noise, I would say it is super quiet, like really quiet. It is quiet to the extent of you not hearing the fan if the house is super quiet and you muted your TV, and that is the case in all games. Even on the very recently released Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Watch Dogs Legion, which are pretty demanding games, I'm sure. And I hope that down the line that the console will keep the same noise levels. Probably it will based on my experience with the Xbox One X. As for the heat, definitely there is warm air coming out of the top vent, but I didn't feel that it is much warmer than the Xbox One X or the PS4 Pro, for example. And there are a lot of videos out there having thermal tests for the console, and they reported that it is within normal temperatures while working, so I guess nothing to worry about when it comes to this part. So basically, you have a monster of a console that will run most of your old games better. You will have access to tons of games if you are subscribed to the Game Pass Ultimate, especially with the new recent addition of EA Play on it at no extra cost, and a few new releases from third-party studios, but lacking any first-party studios exclusive games on the release and probably till the beginning of next year. For me personally, I loved the Xbox Series X, from its design, specs, all the way to the gaming experience, except for the lack of a new UI design, and I'm easily giving it a high score as it deserves it. But what about you guys? Are you going to purchase the console or wait on it for a bit? Or have you already made the purchase? And if so, let me know your thoughts down below. Alright, time to wrap this up. So if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, then leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.